Hello, I'd like you to show how to create a JSON API application in PHP. But before doing that, shortly, what is JSON API? JSON API is an attempt to formalize client-server interaction with JSON and covers such action as resource creation, update, deletion, and reading with filters, sorts, included additional resources, and pagination. Here is an example of JSON API document. You can see the document itself, identified by its types and ID. You can see its attributes and relationship to other resources, which could be identified with type and ID as well. Also, it includes additional resources in included section, which are referred in the document. It also has information about pagination. This page shows a few HTTP request examples. This one demonstrates how resources could be included under response. Similarly, filters, sorting, and pagination could be requested from a server. You can learn more on this on JSON API website. I will leave a link in the description. So, how can we create a JSON API application? I will be using a quick start application called Limoncello. It is very easy to create a new resource in this application, and right out of the box, API would support authorization and features like filters, sorts, included resources, and pagination. The first step would be creating an application with the following commands. And install dependencies with either npm or yarn. Before doing any changes in the application, I will add all the files to Git so we can see changes made. Local server could be run either with npm or yarn. And this is how default application looks like. Before we add any APIs, I will shortly demonstrate application functionality. We can sign into the application with one of the default credentials for a plain user, moderator, and administrator. As an administrator, you can see roles and users. New users and roles could be created or existing edited. If you sign in as a plain user, you will not see any roles and user modification will not be allowed. The application not only lists users and roles, but can filter and sort them as well. This sample URL filters users by first name and role and sorts them by last name. When a new resource is added to the application, this functionality will be available for it without additional coding. Now let's add a new resource called posts and API for that. We can see created files with. This command creates a model file, migration file that adds a new database table, and a seeder that fills in some data. For HTTP part, it adds routes for API and traditional web pages, web page controller, and API controller. API with authorization rules, validation rules for JSON API, HTML forms input data, and queries parameters such as pagination values, sort values, filters, and include paths. It also creates a schema that maps data from JSON API to database model. Let's have a look at the code now. Client-side code such as Sass, CSS, JavaScript, and TypeScript located in this folder. This folder has server-side code. Database model we've created located at Application, Data, Models, Post. The model has information about its database table, primary key, attributes and types, and relationship to other models. Migrations are located in the Migrations folder, and seeds are located in Seeds folder. Default implementation provides authorization, filter, sorts, and resource inclusion, so we only need to specify order in which the data should be migrated and seeded. It's okay for us to just add it to the end. When the new model is migrated, we can start using it. The application already has a sample of how to work with the API from JavaScript or TypeScript. I need to open index file and uncomment the sample. The sample firstly receives OAuth token from the server and outputs it to the console. Then it creates a new post and outputs location of the newly created resource. Then it updates the new post. And this sample shows how to work with filters, sorts, and pagination. Then we delete it. When I save the current file, it will be automatically recompiled and the page would be reloaded. This is hot reloading feature. You can see the token we received from the server, address of newly created resource, and search result. So, we have created a JSON API application that supports authentication, authorization, data filtering, and sorting. We've tried working with this API from a browser as well. The default application contains numerous examples of how to work with the model relationship, authorization rules, validation rules, and how to test both API and traditional HTML web pages. Feel free to contact me on GitHub and look at the source code. It's open. See ya!